Hi, and welcome back to week 2 of my songwriting project with KCTCS. If you missed the first video, my name is Skylar, I'm a composer, and I am currently writing a song with input from all of you as to how that song should look, what the lyrics should be like, what the music should be like, and all that good stuff. So this week we talked about lyrics, and I asked 3 questions about how the lyrics of the song should work. I asked what the theme of the song should be, I asked what the form of the song should be, and I asked what lyric snippet I should use. I gave you a few lyric snippets that I have that I want to incorporate, and you picked which one to incorporate. So, first of all, the theme. You picked growth, which is honestly the one that I was hoping you would pick. I've gone through a ton of growth this past year and a half, as have probably most of us, as we've had to deal with massive worldwide changes in like how everything is working and a global pandemic and all of that stuff. So I graduated in the middle of that pandemic. I would not recommend that to anyone. It was horrible. However, I did undergo a lot of growth, and I learned about my process of saying goodbye, especially when like I wasn't allowed to say goodbye in person. I had to figure out how to do that on my own, kind of. And I knew that I wanted to incorporate that idea into the song. So I'm really glad you all picked growth because it works perfectly. And for the form, no surprises here. You chose a chaotic combo form, which is essentially not necessarily through composed. So there can be some repetition, but it can't be just your standard verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, or your standard AABA form. So I have to do something outside of the box here. And because verse-chorus form was really, really close second, I decided to go with a modified verse-chorus form. So each of my verses is going to be completely unique. New music, new lyrics, nothing's going to be similar about them. Each of the choruses, same music, somewhat different lyrics. The same like lyrical theme going throughout. You'll see what I mean in a minute. But I will be modifying the verses as I go along, which isn't necessarily the standard thing to do with this form, although it's becoming more and more common as people start pushing these forms more, which is great. And then my third verse I want to use in the same way you would use a bridge, dramatically. So it's going to have this rising action that a bridge usually gives to a verse-chorus form. So that's form. And then finally, the lyric snippet that you all chose is I've written letters that I never planned to send, which I think was my second favorite. I really like the line, don't pity the fly in the ointment. I think it's like a really weird, gross image where you're like, oh, why is the fly in the ointment? Is it gonna die? Like, why shouldn't I pity it? I feel bad for this fly that's about to die. And I'm definitely gonna use that lyric in a song in the future. But I really like the letters lyric because it ties so well to the growth theme. That's actually how I managed to get some closure on some of the relationships that wound up ending because of the pandemic, because I wasn't living in the same city as these people that I was really close to anymore, is I wrote them letters that were really jarbled and confusing and like just a mix of like many emotions that I was going through. So I'm not going to send them because they don't really make sense, but it was a way for me to figure out how I was feeling about saying goodbye to these people prematurely. So I think that's a really cool way for me to tie back to the theme of growth. So what are we going to talk about? Because I don't have music for you. All I have is words on a page. I figured what I could do is I could talk you through my lyric writing process for a little bit, which is pretty messy right now, honestly. My lyrics aren't finished because I wanted to leave some room for flexibility this week, once I get more information about what the music itself is going to be like. And then after that, I figured I would play for you a song that came out of a similar process to this one. So hopefully that'll get you excited for the final project of this particular series, and then we'll call it a day. And I'll send out the poll and we'll talk music next week. Sound like a plan? Okay. These are my lyrics. I'm not going to show them to you fully right now because we're going to talk about other stuff first. And these are some thoughts that I have on the song and the story I want to tell. We'll talk a little bit more about this stuff in just a minute after I show you the other 2 tabs that I usually have open during my lyric writing. This one is a Google search tab for random things that I need to look up. Right now, I was really struggling with the word town, so I looked up some town synonyms. There aren't many good ones. I don't want to use the word city because I'm talking about the place where I live right now, and it is 100% not a city. But also words like megalopolis and municipality, maybe not what I'm looking for. But it's always worth a shot to be searching for synonyms or antonyms or idioms or stuff like that that just might not necessarily come to mind right away as I'm writing. And here we have Rhyme Zone, my beautiful pride and joy, my incredible savior in all things rhyming. It gives me every single rhyme for a word in the English language, including the really uncommon ones, like Canterbury Bankstown. Probably not what I'm going to be using in like a, kind of simple song about moving somewhere new, but you never know. So this has been really helpful for me as someone who doesn't have a rhyme-oriented brain. You never want to hear me try and freestyle a song in the moment because it just will not happen. This is a really great tool for me to have when words are escaping me. Okay, so those are the other two tabs. Now back to this tab. The thoughts I have pictures of each of these little paragraphs up on my Instagram if you want to check them out in depth. But the main thing that I focused on was the idea that you can feel stuck somewhere and still love being there and still know that you have to move on. That's been a lot of my process the past couple of years was moving from Minnesota, graduating. I loved being there. I felt a little stuck because I lived on campus and I didn't have a bike or car and I was on campus 24/7. But I loved it there and I was really happy, and yet I knew that when it was time to graduate, it was time to move on. And same with Oregon. Like I loved growing up there, but I felt stuck. And when I was back home during the pandemic, it was like everyone else in the country at that point. I felt really stuck and I was ready to move on, even though I was enjoying so much the time that I got to spend with my family that I wouldn't have otherwise. So that's sort of the main idea that I wanted to get across in the song. And you'll see these bold headings on each verse tell that story. It says, I felt stuck, so I moved somewhere new, but sometimes I can't help but miss the past, and I'm figuring out how to find my own closure. These are not lyrics. They're very awkward. I'm figuring out how to find my own closure is a lot of words, and there are a lot of unstressed syllables, and it just, unless I'm really creative with it, that's not going to be a fun lyric to sing. But it is a really great central idea for verse 3, is I'm finding my own closure, I'm moving forward. So that's why I have these bold headings, is to keep me on track with the story that I'm telling. Because otherwise I'm going to get lost in pretty words and beautiful poetic imagery and all of these floaty, frilly things that sound really wonderful, and then you put them together and you're like, what is this song about? I have no idea. It's just a bunch of really pretty words put together. So these help keep me on track and help me not get lost. But I can still put the pretty words in. So let's take a look at verse 2. This verse isn't finished. I know I want to put something more in here. But the first stanza is fairly complete, and it has really pretty words in it. I'm really happy with some of these lyrics, but they all tie back to sometimes I can't help but miss the past. That's the idea that I'm getting across, and because I have it bolded right here on top of my verse, I can't get far away from it. You'll notice that I have some things in brackets, like behind me, question mark. I don't know if I want to have that particular lyric in here or if I just want to stop after highway. It's something that I'm going to decide maybe once I know more about the music, more about the meter of the song, and not try and make a firm decision on it now. Likewise with this, like something, the most descriptive lyric you've ever heard. I know that this actually needs a question mark after it because I was really struggling with the word town. I know that I'm going to have something here that rhymes with the previous line, but I don't know what it is yet, and I needed some time to just think on it and figure out what I want to be saying with this chorus as it ties back to this verse. And likewise, this entire verse is in brackets. This is kind of like my bolded idea, but it's a little bit more specific. So instead of I felt stuck, so I moved somewhere new, I have the past wasn't bad, but I felt stuck. And then the next part of that verse is going to be them moving somewhere new. So I know that it's going to have sort of two parts to it. And that's my lyric writing process. It's messy. It does not, no lyrics spring forth from my head fully formed. Some people can do that. I can't. This is how I do it. This is how I stay focused on a story and how I make sure that I am getting all of the ideas on the page, even if I don't know exactly what words are going to be expressing those ideas just yet. Thank you for listening to me talk about words for a while. Lyrics are one of the weirder parts of songwriting for me, just because I get bogged down by all of the options I have and so many possibilities, and it gets overwhelming. But I really do love writing lyrics because I love telling stories and I love using pretty words, and for me, writing lyrics is about telling stories with pretty words. So it's just a win-win for everybody. Next week we're gonna do mode and meter. So we're gonna have a full fleshed out song. The lyrics will be finished and I will have the mode and meter to write some notes and rhythms and all of that good stuff. But before that, I wanted to play for you the last song I wrote using this process, which was really similar. Instead of doing it in 2 rounds, I did it all at once. On Instagram, on my main Instagram, and the things that everyone chose were, the theme was loss, the form was again a chaotic combination, so I had to have some repetition, but it couldn't be verse chorus or stanza or anything like that. The meter was something that had 3 in it, so 6/8, which is like the duple version of 3, or 3/4, which is the triple version of 3. Or 9/8, I guess, which is the like triple but also compound version of 3, but I didn't write it in 9/8. 9/8 is a wacky meter. Very fun, but I decided to keep it a little simpler. What else? Mode, it had to be minor, and the lyric snippet that wound up getting chosen was like honey during golden hour. So you're gonna hear a song with all of those things, and after that, I'll sign off, and everybody have a great week. I gave up on rose. I gave up on lilies and beautiful things in search of the sun. I painted my feathers gold, but I fell out of the sky and never could find the warmth of the sun. And you found me, lost, alone, and cold. I found you, painted, tainted gold, and your words were syrupy sweet, like honey during golden hour. I flickered in soft summer heat, like a hummingbird drawn to a flower. And I put on my gold-colored glasses and told myself you were mine. The fire had burned into ashes, and still I thought sparks would fly. Oh, you told me I could fly and fired arrows in my wake. You pulled my heart awry just to see how much I'd take. And you found me, lost, alone, and cold. I found you, you were painted, tainted gold. And I put on my gold-colored glasses and told myself you were mine. The fire had burned into ashes, and still I thought sparks would fly. Oh, your words were syrupy